In 1929, Wall Street didn't just collapse, it exploded, sparking the greatest crash in history and shaking an entire nation to its core. Millions watched their futures vanish overnight as fear tore through the streets and confidence evaporated in seconds. This book isn't just about markets. It's about the mental strength, emotional control, and quiet discipline you must develop when chaos strikes. The lessons are urgent. They matter now, and they are the difference between breaking and breaking through. Listen closely, because what happened in 1929 will happen again, and only those who master themselves will survive. Chapter 1. Witness the collapse. Stop pretending it can't happen to you. You wake up one morning and everything is gone. Not just your bank account, not just your job. The entire world you thought was stable, safe, reliable. It's shattered. Wake up and open your eyes. Stop pretending you're immune. This is the truth about collapse. One day, ordinary life. The next, chaos. That's where the story of 1929 begins. Not with numbers, not with charts or experts, but with real people. Parents, children, workers, dreamers, just like you and me. You are not immune. That's the phrase you need to burn into your mind as you listen to this book. Because in 1929, millions thought they were untouchable, secure, savvy. Then the lights went out, the markets crashed, and across America, security vanished fast. It wasn't just the big investors. Yes, the ones in sharp suits on Wall Street fell hard, but so did the grocer in Ohio, the widow in Nebraska, the teacher who put her savings into the stock market because everyone said it was safe. They lost everything overnight. Can you imagine standing in front of your bank only to find the doors locked? Can you see the long lines snaking around the block? Old men, young mothers, factory workers, waiting, hoping, praying that there's something, anything left inside? Look at the headlines from October 1929. Stock market in panic as millions are lost. Bank runs sweep the nation. These are not just old stories. They are warnings written in blood and tears. You are not immune. Not your job, not your savings, not your comfort zone. When disaster strikes, it tears away anything you haven't protected with discipline and ruthless honesty. Denial is the most dangerous drug. The more you believe it can't happen to you, the more likely you are to go down with the crowd. Do not wait for pain to learn this lesson, because here's the truth: security is temporary. Every generation thinks they're different, smarter, safer. They all say, "That was then. We're too advanced now." That lie destroys more people than any crash ever has. Ask yourself, what would you do if you lost everything tomorrow? Not someday, tomorrow. Think about the sailor who wakes up to find the ship is sinking. There's no time to ask why. There's only time to move. The families of 1929 had to move. Some lost their homes and slept in parks. Others traded jewelry for bags of groceries. Children learned too quickly that nothing is guaranteed. Real stories, real tears. This isn't just ancient history. These patterns repeat. 2008, 2020. How many more warnings do you need before you stop pretending disaster is impossible? You are not immune. That's the key. You must admit vulnerability before you can build real resilience. If you believe you're untouchable, you will be caught unprepared. That's the lesson Wall Street paid for in blood. Let's get real. Ignorance and arrogance kill. It killed fortunes. It destroyed marriages. It took dreams and stripped men and women of their dignity. So here's your call to action. Snap out of the trance. The next collapse won't wait for you to get ready.
Preparation only works if you start before you need it. That's discipline. That's what separates survivors from victims. Denial is expensive. It costs more than money. It costs time, relationships, opportunities. If you wait for the alarm to ring, you're already too late. That's how families woke up to bankruptcy in the Great Depression. That's how businesses, cities, and entire communities lost decades of progress overnight. So what do? You scan for warning signs every single day. You look your ego in the eye and say, you are not immune. You challenge yourself, your plans, your dreams. What if it all went away? Could you rebuild? Will you fall with the herd, or will you be standing when the dust clears? This is non-negotiable. This is the rule. People who prepare survive. People who pretend lose everything. Let's be clear. You don't need permission to take this warning seriously. You don't need the crowd to validate your caution. This isn't about alarmism. It's about discipline. It's about refusing to gamble your future on denial and wishful thinking. The world is full of people who say, it won't happen here, it won't happen to me. Every one of them is a case study in unnecessary suffering. So choose, right now, are you going to face reality, or will you hide behind false confidence? Will you do what most refuse to do, or will you roll the dice along with the crowd? Remember, you have a choice. The people who survived 1929 made the hard choices early. They got honest with themselves. They watched for cracks before the floor vanished beneath them. You have a choice. That's the key. Don't wait. Don't ignore the past. Don't let comfort lull you into risk. Study the collapse, witness the ruin, and own your vulnerability, because the next chapter will go deeper. You mastered your fear. Now, let's talk about the true currency of your life. Chapter 2. The Frenzy of Greed. Recognize the warning signs early. Look around. Whenever markets climb and everyone's celebrating, there's a quiet danger lurking just beneath the surface. Optimism is good. Blind optimism is deadly. In 1929, greed was everywhere. Loud, flashy, and contagious. People believed the party would never stop. You've seen it in history, in news clips, maybe in your own choices. That's the point. You must recognize the signs before it's too late. Greed is loud, discipline is silent. People shouted their wins from the rooftops. They borrowed money they didn't have to buy more, to bet bigger. Everyone's making money. That's what the paper said. You can't lose. That's what friends told each other over drinks and dinners. Most listened. Most jumped in. The herd rushes in when everything feels easy. Don't be deceived. When you see the crowd moving in one direction, ask yourself, why? Most people don't know. They follow because others follow. In 1929, millions poured their life savings into the market, not out of strategy, out of FOMO, out of fear of missing out, out of the everyone's winning illusion. Greed is loud, discipline is silent. When you start hearing everyone talking about easy money, that's your warning. That's your sign to pause. You have a choice. You don't need their permission to stop, to wait, to question. Discipline isn't showy, it's quiet. The disciplined investor doesn't brag. The disciplined builder doesn't advertise every move. While greed is shouting, discipline is planning. The difference? Greed is about image. Discipline is about substance. That's the key. Consider this. The herd always needs validation. The crowd needs proof that it's safe. But nothing is ever truly safe. In 1929, the herd mentality meant people stopped thinking for themselves. They let groupthink take the wheel. How could all these people be wrong? Simple. Because thinking is rare. Real analysis is tough. It takes guts to be the odd one out. But you have a choice. You can fight the urge to follow. That's discipline. Every bubble is built the same way. Overconfidence, hype, and borrowed belief. 1929, the dot-com craze, the housing bubble, even cryptocurrency manias. It doesn't matter what the product is, the pattern is identical. Herd mentality says jump in. Greed says risk it all. But discipline whispers wait, question, prepare. Most ignore the warning. You don't have to. Greed will tempt you every time. The urge to catch up with your neighbor, to prove yourself with fast gains, those are traps. If you let your feelings drive your decisions, the herd will lead you off a cliff. This is not about intelligence. It's about discipline. It's about saying no when others say yes. That's the skill that keeps you safe and lets you win in the long run. Here's the real-world lesson. When the group is all in, step back. Ask what they know that you don't. More often than not, they know nothing. They're betting on hope, emotion, on the illusion that history won't repeat. But history always repeats. If you're surrounded by hype and promises, check your pulse. Slow your thinking. Discipline is silent, but it's powerful. Greed is loud, discipline is silent. Memorize that. Say it every time you feel the pull to chase the crowd. That single phrase can save your fortune, your time, and your sanity. When your friends boast about their next sure thing, when influencers preach overnight wealth, ask yourself, am I thinking for myself, or am I just trying to keep up? True discipline means you don't need the crowd's approval. You don't need the rush of their excitement. You can sit quietly, analyze the facts, and make your own call. It's not about winning every bet. It's about surviving the downturns that no one else sees coming. In the end, the disciplined are the ones left standing when greed burns out. Don't let noise cloud your vision. The louder the market gets, the more cautious you should become. If every conversation is about getting rich quick, recognize the frenzy is a warning sign itself. Learn to love the quiet. Learn to prize careful judgment over popularity. That's the key. Because the herd isn't thinking. The crowd isn't planning for tomorrow. You must be the exception. Behavioral instruction. When you feel the urge to join, pause. Take a day. Take a week. Review the facts, not the hope. Ask, what's the downside? What am I risking by following blindly? Write down your motivations. Make sure they're rooted in discipline, not hype, not anxiety, not envy. If you can't explain your decision to a child, you don't really understand it yourself. Every bubble, every crash, every panic, these are fueled by unchecked greed. If you want to win, you need the courage to be silent while others are shouting. You need the discipline to stay still while the herd is running. You have a choice. You don't need their permission to protect yourself. Never forget, greed is loud, discipline is silent. That single truth will empower you to spot danger when it's disguised as opportunity. This chapter isn't just about markets, it's about life. Friends, trends, gossip, they can all push you toward reckless choices. Say no. Wait for clarity. Choose substance over speed every single time. As we move forward, remember, you have a choice. That's the key. Stay silent when greed gets loud. Think for yourself when the crowd loses its head, because the next chapter is coming, and it's about the false sense of confidence that traps even the smartest people. You heard the warning. Now prepare for the harder truth.
Chapter 3. False confidence. Stop trusting what feels secure. Confidence is powerful, but false confidence is poison. In 1929, the world was drunk on certainty. Banks, newspapers, politicians, everyone said the same thing. We're safe. We're too big to fail. That's the trap. That's the lie that destroys more fortunes than any crash. If everyone's confident, be cautious. That's the key. You have a choice. You can question what feels secure,
or you can follow the crowd into disaster. In 1929, people trusted the system. They trusted the banks. They trusted the experts. They believed the market would always go up. They believed the government would always step in. They believed nothing could go wrong. That's how millions lost everything, not because they were foolish, but because they trusted what felt secure. If everyone's confident, be cautious. When you hear, "Don't worry, it's safe," that's your signal to start worrying. When you hear, "This can't fail," that's your cue to look for the cracks. In 1929, banks promised safety. They told customers their money was protected. But when the panic hit, the doors slammed shut. People lined up for hours, only to be told their life savings were gone. The lesson? Institutions are not invincible. No one is too big to fail. It's not about comfort, it's about discipline. Comfort lulls you to sleep. Discipline keeps you awake. The world will always try to sell you security, but real security comes from preparation, not promises. You have a choice. You can build your own safety net, or you can trust someone else to do it for you. History shows what happens when you choose the easy way. Think about the stories you've heard. The giant banks, the trusted companies, the rock-solid investments. Again and again, they collapse. Again and again, people are shocked. Why? Because they trusted the crowd. They believed the hype. They ignored the warning signs. If everyone's confident, be cautious. That's the key. Too big to fail. That's the most dangerous phrase in finance. In 1929, it was the banks. In 2008, it was the mortgage giants. In every era, there's a new, safe bet, but the pattern never changes. The more people believe in invincibility, the more fragile the system becomes. The more you trust the crowd, the more exposed you are when reality hits. You don't need their permission to question what feels secure. You don't need to wait for the crowd to panic before you act. Discipline means thinking for yourself. Discipline means preparing for the worst, even when everyone else is celebrating. That's how you survive. That's how you win. Here's your behavioral instruction. When you feel safe, ask why. When you hear, "It's different this time," get suspicious. When you see everyone rushing in, slow down. Write down your risks. Imagine the worst-case scenario. Build a plan for what you'll do if it happens. That's discipline. That's real security. If everyone's confident, be cautious. Don't let comfort blind you. Don't let the crowd make your decisions. You have a choice. You can be the exception. You can be the one who prepares while others relax. You can be the one who stands when others fall. Remember, false confidence is the enemy. It's not about fear. It's about discipline. It's about refusing to trust what feels secure just because everyone else does. The world will always offer you easy answers. Don't take them. Build your own foundation. Question everything. Prepare for anything. You have a choice. That's the key. If everyone's confident, be cautious. That's how you protect yourself. That's how you build real strength. That's how you avoid the fate of those who trusted too much and lost it all. You've learned to question comfort. You've seen through the illusion of safety. Now it's time to face the next test. What happens when panic takes over? You mastered false confidence. Now let's talk about the moment fear wins. Chapter 4. The Day Panic Won. Test your emotional control now. Picture this. October 24th, 1929. The opening bell rings on Wall Street. But instead of the usual hum, there's a roar. Phones ring off the hook. Brokers shout. Faces pale. The ticker tape can't keep up. Prices are falling, fast. People are pushing, yelling, desperate to sell. The market is in free fall. This is not a movie. This is history. This is what happens when fear takes over. Fear spreads faster than facts. That's the key. You have a choice. In moments like this, you can join the stampede or you can stand your ground. But make no mistake, panic is contagious. It jumps from person to person, from headline to headline, from rumor to reality. In 1929, it swept through the country like wildfire. One person sells, then 10, then 1,000. The herd runs, the market crashes. Fear spreads faster than facts. People lost fortunes in hours, not days, hours. They watched their life savings evaporate. They saw their dreams turn to dust. Some tried to hold on. Most couldn't. The pressure was too much. The noise was too loud. The fear was too real. That's what panic does. It drowns out reason. It silences discipline. It makes you forget every plan you ever made. You have a choice. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need the crowd's approval to hold your ground. Emotional control is your shield. It's your edge. When everyone else is losing their head, you keep yours. That's discipline. That's the difference between surviving and sinking. Fear spreads faster than facts. Remember that. The news will scream disaster. The experts will predict doom. Your friends will panic. Your family will worry. The pressure will build. But facts move slow. Reality takes time to reveal itself. If you react to fear, you lose. If you wait for facts, you win. That's the key. Here's what you must do. When panic hits, pause, breathe, step back. Ask yourself, what do I know for sure? What is just noise? Write it down. Separate fact from feeling. That's discipline. That's how you stay centered when the world spins out control. In 1929, the people who survived weren't the smartest. They weren't the richest. They were the calmest. They kept their heads. They made decisions based on facts, not fear. They didn't let the herd dictate their fate. You have a choice. You can be that person. You can train yourself to respond, not react. Behavioral instruction. Practice emotional control every day. When you feel anxiety rising, pause. When you hear bad news, don't act immediately. Give yourself time. Sleep on big decisions. Talk to someone you trust. Write down your fears. Challenge them with facts. This is not weakness. This is strength. This is discipline. Fear spreads faster than facts. The world will always have another crisis, another panic, another day when everything seems to fall apart. But you don't have to fall with it. You can be the calm in the storm. You can be the anchor for others. You have a choice. That's the key. Don't let fear make your decisions. Don't let panic steal your future. When the next crash comes, and it will, remember this chapter. Remember the chaos of 1929. Remember how quickly fear can destroy, but also remember how powerful emotional control can be. That's your edge. That's your advantage. You've learned to master your emotions. You've learned to pause when others panic. Now it's time to build the habits that make discipline automatic. You survived the day panic won. Now, let's talk about the power of quiet daily discipline. Chapter 5. Quiet discipline. Act calmly when the world screams. While Wall Street burned in 1929, there were people who didn't panic. They didn't scream. They didn't run. They stayed calm. They stuck to their routines. They made measured decisions. These weren't the loudest voices. They weren't the richest investors. But they were the survivors. Why? Because they understood something the crowd didn't. Discipline is your edge. When the world screams, you whisper. When chaos erupts, you stay still. Discipline is your edge. That's the key. Not luck, not connections, not even intelligence. Discipline. The ability to do what needs to be done when you don't feel like doing it. The strength to stay consistent when everything around you is falling apart. That's what separated the winners from the losers in 1929. That's what will separate you from the crowd when your crisis hits. Meet Joseph Kennedy. While others panicked in 1929, he kept his routine. Every morning he reviewed his positions. Every evening he planned the next day. He didn't chase rumors. He didn't follow the herd. He made decisions based on facts, not feelings. When the market crashed, he was ready. He survived. He thrived. Why? Because discipline is your edge. You have a choice. You can build quiet discipline now, or you can wait for chaos to teach you the hard way. Discipline isn't flashy. It's not exciting. It happens in the quiet moments, in the daily decisions no one sees, in the habits you build when no one is watching. That's where real strength comes from. Here's your first daily habit. Start your day with silence. 5 minutes. No phone, no news, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. This creates a buffer between outside chaos and inner peace. Discipline is your edge. Every successful person who survived 1929 had this buffer. They didn't let the world's noise become their internal voice. Second habit. Write down your priorities every morning. 3 things. That's it. Not 30, not 300. 3. When crisis hits, you'll have clarity. You'll know what matters. You'll know where to focus. The panicked crowd will scatter their energy everywhere. You'll concentrate yours. That's the difference. That's the edge. Third habit. Review your decisions at night. What went right? What went wrong? What can you improve? This isn't about perfection. It's about progress. The survivors of 1929 learned from every mistake. They adjusted their approach. They got better. You can too. Discipline is your edge. It's not about emotion. It's about discipline. Emotions scream. Discipline whispers. Emotions react. Discipline responds. When the world is on fire, emotions tell you to run. Discipline tells you to think. Which voice will you listen to? You have a choice. Fourth habit. Create physical anchors. When stress hits, touch your desk. Take 3 deep breaths. Count to 10. These simple actions create space between trigger and response. The people who survived 1929 weren't emotionless. They just had systems to manage their emotions. You need these systems too. Fifth habit. Limit information intake during chaos. The more you consume, the more you become confused. Pick one trusted source. Check it once per day. That's it. In 1929, the survivors didn't read every newspaper. They didn't listen to every radio show. They filtered the noise. They focused on facts. You must do the same. You don't need their permission to be disciplined. You don't need the crowd's approval to stay calm. Quiet discipline is a solo journey. It's built in private moments. It's tested in public crises. The world will always try to pull you into its chaos. Discipline keeps you centered. That's your edge. Mental cue number 1. When you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, what would I do if I were calm? Then do that. Mental cue number 2. When you want to react immediately, count to 5. Then count to 5 again. Mental cue number 3. When everyone is moving fast, slow down. Speed kills judgment. Patience saves fortunes. Discipline is your edge. The world doesn't reward the loudest person. It rewards the most consistent one, the most prepared one, the one who stays calm when others lose their minds. That can be you. That should be you, but only if you build the habits now. Here's your action plan. Start tomorrow morning. 5 minutes of silence, 3 written priorities, physical anchors during stress, limited information intake, nightly review. Do this for 30 days. No excuses, no negotiations, just do it. Discipline is your edge. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about practice. The survivors of 1929 weren't perfect. They just practiced discipline every day. They built habits that served them when chaos came. You can do the same. You have a choice. That's the key. You have built your discipline. You have created your buffer. You have learned to stay calm when the world screams. But what happens when you delay action? What's the real cost of hesitation? You mastered quiet discipline. Now let's talk about the price of hesitation. Chapter 6. The price of inaction. Ignoring disaster costs more than you think. Let's get real. Ignoring reality doesn't protect you. It sinks you deeper. In every crisis, some hesitate, some freeze, some tell themselves, it will get better, just wait. But disaster never waits for your permission. Delay multiplies damage. That's the key. Hesitation is the slow poison that drains your future, quietly and relentlessly. Relive the stories from 1929. So many people watched the signs, but did nothing. They saw prices falling, heard the fear spreading, noticed the bank lines growing. But they said, maybe it will turn around tomorrow. They waited, and while they waited, everything slipped away. Savings vanished, homes disappeared, opportunities evaporated. Delay multiplies damage. Here's a hard truth. The cost of inaction is almost always bigger than the cost of a wrong step. You can recover from a mistake. You can't recover from doing nothing while the world changes around you. Inaction isn't safety, it's decay. Every day you postpone, your options shrink. Every hour you wait, the damage grows. Delay multiplies damage. You have a choice. The people who lost the most in 1929 weren't the ones who made fast decisions. They were the ones who made no decision. Paralysis looks safe in the moment, but it's deadly over time. It's not about caution. It's about discipline. Discipline moves. Hesitation freezes. Discipline makes hard calls. Inaction hopes things will fix themselves. Hope is not a strategy. Think about the unseen costs. It's not just money lost, it's missed opportunity. When everyone's selling in a panic, sometimes the disciplined do need to sell. Sometimes they need to cut losses and pivot. The undisciplined keep hoping for a miracle. The disciplined accept reality fast and adapt. Delay multiplies damage. Every hour you deny reality, you lose ground. Every day you delay, you give up control. There are silent costs to waiting that go deeper than numbers. When you hesitate, you lose confidence. You start doubting yourself. You start thinking, maybe I really can't change things. This self-doubt lingers long after the crisis has passed. You don't just lose money, you lose momentum, self-belief, your fighting edge. Delay multiplies damage, not just to your resources, but to your spirit. Real discipline acts. It doesn't wait for a perfect plan. It doesn't wait for permission. It sees the problem and says, move. So here's your behavioral instruction. When you see a threat, confront it, even if you're not sure you'll succeed. When you recognize a weakness, attack it head on. Don't debate for days. Don't hope someone else will solve your problem. Take one small step forward. Action almost always beats the cost of delay. Delay multiplies damage. Think about it. The house that needs repairs only gets more expensive the longer you wait. The conversation you avoid only gets harder and more painful. The health checkup you skip today becomes a crisis tomorrow. The investment you refuse to cut becomes a black hole. The opportunity you hesitate on goes to someone bolder, someone disciplined, someone who acts. You don't need their permission to act. You don't need everything to be perfect. Transformation is forged in motion, not in waiting rooms. Don't let "not sure" become your default answer to life's challenges. Make "I will move first" your new mantra. Delay multiplies damage. That's the key. You have a choice. Will you act and take control, or will you hesitate and let the situation rot beneath your feet? In every era, it's the action takers who shape their lives, even when they make mistakes. The world rewards movement and punishes indecision. Here's a hard exercise. Find one area in your life right now where you're hesitating. Money, health, relationships, name it. Now take the smallest action possible in the next hour. One phone call, one decision, one honest conversation. Do this every time you catch yourself waiting and hoping. Turn waiting into working. Turn hesitation into hustle. That's the discipline difference. Delay multiplies damage, always, relentlessly, invisibly. The longer you procrastinate, the bigger your obstacle becomes. But the moment you step forward, the hold of fear breaks. The habit of action becomes your armor. This is not about arrogance. It's about urgency. It's about refusing to surrender your power to waiting. You have a choice. That's the key. Inaction is a decision, a dangerous one. Do not let your future be determined by hesitation. Act now while others wait. Move first while others freeze. Build momentum while others are stuck. You have broken the cycle of delay. You have learned the price of inaction. Now it's time to own every choice you make, especially when the world looks for someone else to blame. You faced the cost of waiting. Now let's talk about taking full responsibility for your future.
Chapter 7. The Blame Game. Stop outsourcing your responsibility. After every disaster, the world looks for a villain. In 1929, the blame game started overnight. Newspapers screamed at bankers. Politicians pointed fingers at Wall Street. The public cursed the government. Employees shouted at their bosses, neighbors, anyone but themselves. That's the cycle. That's the trap. When things fall apart, everyone wants a scapegoat. But if you spend your life outsourcing responsibility, you only outsource your future. Own your fate. That's the key. You have a choice. You can join the crowd, crying for justice, begging for rescue, hunting for someone to blame. Or you can rise above and take radical personal accountability. In every crisis, the herd gives away its power with excuses. History doesn't reward the blamers. It rewards the people who step up, face the facts, and say, "My life, my rules, my responsibility." Let's break down the blame game. In 1929, politicians blamed speculators. Business leaders blamed the Fed. The Fed blamed the banks. The banks blamed the irrational public. The public blamed everyone but themselves. Repeat after me. Own your fate. The more you let yourself play the victim, the more powerless you become. Blame is comfortable. Blame is easy. But blame is self-destruction with a smile. Here's a tough truth. Pointing fingers doesn't fix a thing. In every era, we see it. The crash, the recession, the layoffs. Headlines demand heads to roll. Protests rage. But how much energy is spent blaming compared to fixing? Every minute you spend in blame is a minute lost forever. Own your fate. That's the key. It's not about perfection. It's about discipline. Discipline means accepting reality. Life owes you nothing, no matter how unfair the world gets. You have a choice.
You don't need their permission to take responsibility. You don't need the government, your boss, your family to validate your ownership of your future. This is transformation. This is the difference between passivity and power. Listen to the internal blame dialogue that ruins lives. It's the economy. My boss hates me. My parents didn't give me enough. My partner doesn't support my dreams. Stop it. Stop outsourcing your responsibility. Every time you say, I can't because of them, you surrender control. Every time you say, I'm stuck because of them, you dig your hole deeper. Own your fate. That's the key. Behavioral shift. When you catch yourself blaming, switch instantly to self-examination. Ask, what can I do next? Where did I ignore reality? How can I prevent this again? Write it down every single time. Radical accountability isn't easy, but it's necessary if you want to win. The disciplined don't waste time on blame. They spend time on solutions. Here's a fact from 1929. Some people waited for rescue that never came. They spent days, weeks, years blaming the crash, blaming the system, blaming their luck. But the ones who owned their fate acted, pivoted, rebuilt. They didn't wait for a bailout. They didn't wait for apologies. They got to work. That's the mentality that produces greatness. You have a choice. That's the key. You can rewrite your story anytime you choose to stop blaming and start building. The world will always have unfairness. The system will always have flaws. You can let those truths hold you hostage, or you can outwork them. Discipline means saying, I am the solution. I am the leverage. I am the future. If you want transformation, kill the habit of blame. Replace it with radical action. Replace it with honest review. Replace it with tenacity. You don't need their permission to own your success. The people who blame never change. The people who own move mountains. Blame is a currency with zero value. Accountability is priceless. In every market collapse, in every relationship crisis, in every business failure, responsibility is the foundation for any comeback. Own your fate. That's the key. This is your challenge. The next time a problem hits, refuse to search for a scapegoat. Refuse to look outside. Refuse to wait for a savior. Look in the mirror. Ask, what will I do right now? Then do it. That's radical discipline. That's how you escape the endless cycles of blame. You have a choice. Every crisis is a chance to drop the blame and pick up the tools for rebuilding. Blame keeps you locked in the past. Accountability opens doors to the future. You have broken the blame cycle. You have accepted total responsibility. Now it's time to discover what comes next. How you rise from nothing when everything is lost. You mastered accountability. Now let us build your comeback. Chapter 8. Survivor's Mindset. Rebuild from nothing with relentless toughness. You lost everything. The crash took it all. Your savings, your home, your security. Gone. Now what? Most people break. Most people give up. But not you. You have a choice. That's the key. You can fall into victimhood, or you can rise with relentless toughness. This chapter is about the survivors, the ones who started where they stood and built again. Start where you stand. That's the mantra. It's not about waiting for perfect conditions. It's not about having all the answers. It's about taking the first step, no matter how small, from exactly where you are. The survivors of 1929 didn't wait for a miracle. They didn't wait for someone to save them. They started with what they had, sometimes nothing, and moved forward. Take the story of Charles Merrill, co-founder of Merrill Lynch. He lost nearly everything in the crash, but he refused to play the victim. He said, I will rebuild. He started small, focused on daily progress, and grew his company into a powerhouse. How? Discipline, toughness, starting where he stood. You have a choice. You don't need their permission to rebuild. You don't need a perfect plan or a safety net. You need discipline. The discipline to show up every day, to do the work, to keep moving forward even when it hurts. Here's your first practical step. Daily affirmations. Every morning, say to yourself, I start where I stand. I control my future. I am relentless. Repeat it until it sinks in. This rewires your mind from victim to victor. It's not about luck, it's about discipline. Next, visualization. Picture your future self, strong, successful, unbreakable. See the steps you took to get there. Feel the emotions of victory. This mental rehearsal builds resilience. It prepares you to act when the moment comes. Survivors don't wait for motivation. They create it. They build habits that keep them moving. Set small goals daily. Celebrate progress, no matter how tiny. Discipline is your edge. It's not about how much you lost. It's about how you respond. You have a choice. You can let loss define you, or you can let it refine you. That's the key. Behavioral instruction. Write down 3 things you can do today to move forward. No excuses, no delays. Take action. Then do it again tomorrow. Build momentum. Remember, rebuilding is a marathon, not a sprint. Patience and persistence are your allies. When setbacks come, and they will, remind yourself, start where you stand. Keep moving. You don't need their permission to be tough. You don't need approval to be relentless. This is your journey. Own it. You mastered accountability. You embraced action. Now it's time to learn why most forget these lessons and repeat history. You built your survivor's mindset. Next, we explore the dangers of forgetting. Chapter 9. Lessons Unlearned. Why most will repeat history unless they change. History is a brutal teacher. It punishes those who ignore it. In 1929, the world learned a hard lesson. But how long did that lesson last? Not long enough. Within a generation, the pain faded. The warnings were forgotten. The same reckless risks returned. That's the cycle. That's the danger. Forget history, repeat disaster. That's the key. You have a choice. You can learn from the past, or you can become its next victim. Most people choose the easy way. They forget. They move on. They convince themselves it's different this time. But it never is. The faces change, the technology changes, but the pattern stays the same. Greed, denial, panic, blame, collapse. Over and over. Forget history, repeat disaster. Look at the decades after 1929. The Great Depression scarred a nation, but by the 1950s, optimism was back. By the 1960s, risk-taking returned. By the 1980s, speculation was everywhere. The dot-com bubble of the 1990s, the housing crash of 2008, the cryptomanias of the 2020s. Every time, the warnings were there. Every time, most ignored them. Forget history, repeat disaster. It's not about intelligence. It's about discipline. The disciplined study the past. They internalize the pain. They build systems to avoid the same mistakes. The undisciplined chase the crowd, convinced they're smarter, faster, luckier. But the market doesn't care about your confidence. It cares about your preparation. That's the key. You don't need their permission to learn. You don't need the crowd to validate your caution. You have a choice. You can be the exception. You can be the one who remembers, the one who prepares, the one who refuses to repeat disaster. Behavioral instruction. Make history your daily study. Read about past crashes. Write down the patterns. Identify the warning signs. Build your own checklist. When you see the same signs, act. Don't wait for the crowd. Don't wait for the pain. Discipline is learning before you're forced to. Forget history, repeat disaster. That's the law. The world will always tempt you to forget. The media will hype the next big thing. Your friends will say, "Don't worry, it's different now." But you know better. You've seen the cycle. You've learned the cost. You have a choice. Here's your challenge. Every time you make a big decision, ask yourself, am I ignoring a lesson from the past? Am I repeating a mistake I've already seen? If the answer is yes, stop, rethink, adjust. That's discipline. That's how you break the cycle. It's not about fear, it's about wisdom. The survivors of every crisis are the ones who remember, the ones who prepare, the ones who act before disaster strikes. You can be that person. You should be that person, but only if you choose to learn. You have a choice. That's the key. Forget history, repeat disaster. Remember history, build your future. The world will always offer you shortcuts. Don't take them. Take the long view. Study the past. Protect your future. You have learned the lessons. You have broken the cycle. Now it's time to put your knowledge into action. You've seen what happens when history is ignored. Now, let's prepare for the next storm. Chapter 10. Prepare for the next crash. Become crisis-proof now. You have seen the cycle. You have felt the pain. You know the cost of denial, greed, panic, and inaction. Now it's time to do what most never will. Prepare when others relax. That's the key. The next crash is coming. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but it's coming. You have a choice. You can be ready or you can be a victim. This chapter is your blueprint. This is how you become crisis-proof, starting now. Prepare when others relax. Most people let their guard down when things are good. They stop saving, they stop learning, they stop questioning. That's when risk is highest. That's when you must double down on discipline. The world rewards those who prepare in silence, not those who react in panic. You don't need their permission to get ready. You don't need the crowd to validate your caution. You have a choice. First, emotional control. Make it a daily practice. Every morning, before you check your phone, take 5 deep breaths. Remind yourself, I control my reactions. I am calm under pressure. When bad news hits, pause. Don't respond immediately. Give yourself space to think. Write down your first reaction, then challenge it. Is it fact or fear? This is your shield. This is your edge. Second, mental toughness. Build it like a muscle. Every week, do something uncomfortable. Take a cold shower. Have a hard conversation. Push your limits. The more you practice discomfort, the less the world can shake you. When the crash comes, you'll be ready. You'll have the grit to endure, adapt, and rebuild. Mental toughness isn't about never feeling fear. It's about acting anyway. That's discipline. Third, quiet discipline. Set routines that protect you from chaos. Automate your savings. Review your finances every month. Limit your exposure to hype and noise. When everyone else is celebrating, you're preparing. When everyone else is spending, you're saving. When everyone else is distracted, you're focused. Prepare when others relax. That's the difference. Here's your actionable toolkit. 1. Emergency fund. Build and protect it. 3 to 6 months of living expenses, untouched except for true emergencies. This is your lifeline when the world falls apart. 2. Diversity. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spread your investments. Don't chase trends. Stick to what you understand. Simplicity beats complexity in a crisis. 3. Skill up. Learn new skills every year. The more you know, the more options you have when things change. Read, take courses, practice. Never stop growing. 4. Quietly network. Build relationships before you need them. Help others. Stay connected. In a crisis, your network is your safety net. 5. Review regularly. Every quarter, review your plans. What's working? What's not? Adjust. Don't wait for disaster to force your hand. Prepare when others relax. That's the mantra. Say it every day. Write it on your wall. Make it your default setting. The world will always tempt you to let down your guard. Don't. The disciplined are always ready. The prepared are always calm. The crisis-proof are always one step ahead. You have a choice. That's the key. You can start today. You can build your shield, your strength, your discipline. Or you can wait for the next crash and hope for the best. Hope is not a strategy. Preparation is. You don't need their permission to change. You don't need the crowd to approve. You need discipline. You need action. You need commitment. This is your moment. This is your challenge. Prepare when others relax. Build your future when others waste theirs. Become crisis-proof now, because the next storm is coming, and only the prepared will stand tall when it hits. You have finished the journey. You have learned the lessons. Now it's time to act. The world won't wait. Neither should you. Prepare when others relax. That's how you win, no matter what comes next.
What happened in 1929 is more than history. It's a brutal, permanent reminder that everything you think is safe can vanish. Markets will always crash, panic will always spread, and most people will lose more than money. They'll lose themselves. But you aren't most people. You've heard the lessons. Emotional control in chaos, mental toughness in loss, discipline when everyone else surrenders. These are your shields against disaster, your weapons in the next crisis. Act with silence, respond with strength, and never delay, because only rapid responsibility and quiet preparation will keep you standing when the world falls down. Start now. Prepare now. Take command of your mind, your emotions, your actions every single day. Don't wait for the next crash to learn. Rise above the herd. Take your future into your own hands and prove in times of crisis that you are built to endure, built to rebuild, and built to win. This is your challenge. Will you accept it?